Okay, my goal is to make the career project as painless as possible. It comes in 3 parts. I am going to post the career project as its own little unit area and put all of the pieces in there. But please refer to the weekly schedule to understand when the career project is due. It's not all due at once. You kind of have different due dates for each part of the career project. There are 3 parts. The first part of the career project is called Possible Selves, Possible Lives. And it's for you to identify from taking surveys in the course, the Holland Code, and any other career type surveys that gauge your interests, and you're going to reflect on those things. So you'll identify your career paths with the part 1, Possible Selves, Possible Lives, and you'll make a mind map and you'll reflect on that. So it's not really all that hard. The mind map starts just with you in the center. It should be a visual representation of the paths that you could take. Now that may look like a concept web map. That might, if you're artistic or you like to draw, it might look a little different. But it should be a visual representation, some sort of visual representation of where your life may take you, okay? As far as your career goes from college onward. So you'll have the instructions down below. They will be for parts 1, 2, and 3. So part 1, Possible Self, Possible Lives. On the second, number 2 on the instructions, it gives you some prompts that you can use to write your paper. It should not be very long, but again, it should follow the instructions for written work that are in the syllabus, which is a 12-point Times New Roman font with a double space. So make sure that you save this to your computer as well, and you have a copy of it for later. Part 2 is the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that may arise as you pursue your path, your chosen path. This one seems to trip people up a little bit, but I want to make it very clear for you. On the instructions for part 2, SWOT analysis, you're going to see 4 squares down at the bottom. That does not mean that you're putting on your paper 4 squares and bulleting and answering the questions. Instead, think of it this way: write 1 paragraph for each square. This should be in a paper format or an essay format or reflection format, however you want to look at it. So it should start with an opening, then you should have the strengths, answer your questions, then you should have the opportunities, and so on. So these are just prompts to help you get writing. You will use the Possible Selves, Possible Lives, possibly, in making this happen. So again, make sure that you have that document saved. You're going to analyze the career fields that you're interested in, the ones that you talked about in your Possible Selves, Possible Lives. Part 3 is the action plan. This part is possibly the most important part of the career project. For this part, you're going to need to have your SWOT analysis, so make sure you have that saved. But you need to think about what college courses you're going to need. Now that you know that I have to reach these goals, and you need to know what you need to do to reach those goals. So make sure that you need to know if you have to have a certain GPA, you address that. If you have to move, maybe you have to get an advanced degree. Whatever it is, just kind of think about that as you do your action plan. Again, on the instructions for the action plan, it gives you some prompts. On number 2, it gives you prompts you can use to write your paper. Now, this paper says 3 to 4 pages. I really don't want 3 to 4 pages. I would much rather prefer about 2 to 3 pages of a reflection, 2 maybe. But it also needs to have a degree plan with this turned in. So that means that I need to see what classes you've taken, which ones you need to take, where are you going. If you are going to another institution after Texarkana College, you need to make sure and include that degree plan. So really on the action plans, there are 2 parts: the typed paper and your degree plan that you are using to move on and achieve your degree. So the action I'll put a lot of information in here. There'll be tons of instructions. Understand that it's not all due at one time. I will post it all, and if you want to start working on it and going for it, go for it. But understand that week 2, at the end of week 2, the Possible Selves, Possible Lives Part 1 is due. At the end of week 3, the SWOT analysis is due. And at the end of week 4, the action plan is due. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to holler at me.